Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Talk Criterion, and this is the March update. Nice to be with you all once again. Now, I promised you last time I'd be talking about some films that are already existing in the Criterion collection, and also I'm going to be looking at some of the new releases that I've acquired recently. So we start off with those new releases, and the first one is Mandabi. It's the second film by the acclaimed director Ousmane Sembene. The first one is already in the collection, and that's Black Girl. That's a 50-minute film from 1967, black and white. Now, Mandabi is totally in the director's native African language of Wolof. The title translates as money order. That's the premise in the narrative. An unemployed Senegalese Muslim called Ibrahima lives with his 2 wives and 7 children in Dakar. Now, his nephew Abdou sends him a money order from Paris worth 250 francs. That's a lot of money, by the way, in those days. He's saved from working as a street sweeper. Ibrahima is to keep some of the money for himself and save a portion for his nephew, and then give a portion to his sister. The director shot this film in 1968, that's a year after Black Girl, because he wanted to create cinema for the Wolof speakers, and it was the first film of its type. One of the features on the disc includes Tau, T-A-U-W. That's a 1970 short film by Sembene. Mandabi is spine number 1065. Very interesting watch. Also from that particular neck of the woods, we have Tuki Buki. That's another film, and this time it's filmed in Senegal, where incidentally Sembene hails from. It first featured as a choice in Martin Scorsese's World Cinema Project, Volume 1, and deservedly so. It's directed by Djibril Diop Mambete, and he based the screenplay on his own story and had a script and a budget of about $30,000. Maury's a cowherd and he drives a motorbike with a bullhorn skull mounted on it. He meets a girl Anta in Dakar and they plan to go on an exciting adventure to Paris. But clearly their dreams don't connect with reality, and the story plays out in a very, very unusual way. It was made in 1973, again in the Wolof language, and that's clearly a theme we're seeing here with Criterion, who are pioneering this area of world cinema. I'm personally quite intrigued on what's still to come, because they announced a film also in one of the World Cinema Project box sets called Trances. That's coming out in a few months' time. Tuki Buki is spine number 685. Now moving on to another part of the world with Luis Bunuel's trilogy box set. Now many will know him for the famous Belle de Jour with the enigmatic Catherine Deneuve, but this later departure takes him in a new direction. Now he's often bundled with French New Wave directors, but he is not part of that. The discreet charm of the bourgeoisie, the Phantom of Liberty, and that obscure object of desire. They're all separate Criterion releases in their own right, but this set will bring them together nicely with an informative book contained in the first disc. Now, part of Bunuel's charm is putting his characters who appear in a domestic setting in a world which descends very quickly into surrealism. Now, he borrows a lot from a playwright called Ionesco, who did sort of pioneer absurdist drama. He often assaults middle-class mores with the satirical presentation on film. Now, I won't go into detail on every individual film, because it would act as a spoiler for those who would want to get the set and enjoy it themselves. So suffice to say, you will definitely go on a trip which will be entertaining and enlightening. And I'm very personally pleased that all films have been finally brought together in one set. Now, the set has no spine numbers, but the individual films already exist in the Criterion collection, and these are the spine numbers that you can see on the display now. Hollywood's golden era was very, very much in the 30s and 40s, and a very classic example of this is Swing Time, with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. They are a perfect duo, dancing their way through a dialogue mix of music, and the brilliant Jerome Kern song features The Way You Look Tonight. It evokes the charm that permeated American cinema from the studio system. Really, after the American Depression, audiences in cinema really wanted cheering up, and these light, fluffy musicals were the perfect way for Hollywood to deliver that to the audience. It exudes sophistication, and it doesn't fail to bring a smile to my face every time I see it. Just the skill and the dexterity of Astaire and Rogers in each dance, that in many cases was a whole take that was repeated endlessly by its director George Stevens until it was just right. Swing Time is spine number 979. Lars von Trier has a reputation for being a Marmite filmmaker. I think that's slightly unfair. He's currently got 2 titles in the Criterion collection, Breaking the Waves and Antichrist. Now, clearly Antichrist has very disturbing overtones and, more importantly, disturbing imagery to go with them. He sets out to shock his viewers. He's not apologetic for it, and as a filmmaker, he has a take it or leave it approach. But you cannot mistake his work. It's quite original. Now, this particular title is very tricky to get hold of at the moment on Criterion. I don't know how you manage anybody who bought it in the flash sale, but I've had months of tracking it down at the right price, to be honest, but I finally got it in my collection. William Dafoe gives a masterful performance as a man coming to terms with the death of his son, and his wife is played by Charlotte Gainsbourg. She matches Dafoe's performance as they struggle with the horror of nature and themselves locked away in a remote cabin. Only von Trier films can make whole Cannes audiences boo them, as they did at the 2009 Cannes Film Festival when it premiered. More von Trier in the collection, please, Criterion. Melancholia, for instance, and of course, Nymphomaniac. So, Antichrist is spine number 542. Now, if you need a charming comedy, look no further than His Girl Friday. There's certainly enough in this genre already in the Criterion collection, but you put Rosalind Russell and Cary Grant in the same film and you have comedy gold. Hildy Johnson is played by Russell at a local paper, and her editor Walter Burns sends her to cover an execution story to stop her leaving Albany and becoming a drab housewife. Now, if this plot sounds a bit familiar to you, this is because it is. This was a comedy gem in 1940, but it's adapted from a play called The Front Page. And guess what? You get that version on this release as well. So you get 2 movies for the price of 1. This is out in the UK as well as in the US, and it's available in a lot of these flash sales on the online retailers, so you should be able to pick it up from HMV and Zavi. Now, incidentally, it got remade yet again as The Front Page. You same title was used. This time it had Jack Lemmon as the reporter and Walter Matthau as the editor. This particular film, His Girl Friday, is spine number 849. Bowling for Columbine was an Oscar-winning documentary by Michael Moore, where he followed the trail from those involved in the terrible shooting at Columbine High School in 1999. Now, this was the first mass shooting in the US that horrified the world because a lot of children were involved. Now, his style caused a real storm when it was screened because of the interviews and the opinions regarding gun support, as per the US Constitution, the right to bear arms, and how dangerous it is in the wrong hands. Now, he's gone on to be a documentarian pioneer in some other areas like political conspiracy, Fahrenheit 9/11, and of course heightening the poor state of the care system with Sicko. He's not popular, but he presents his own truth with no holds barred. That's Michael Moore, Bowling for Columbine, spine number 928. Now, one of my favourite directors at the minute is Abbas Kiarostami. He's an Iranian director with a unique storytelling style. Close-up's the tale of a man who is arrested for impersonating a famous filmmaker. Now, this story is told as it's really happening, and you could be confused because it appears to be so real. It's almost like a documentary in its verite style. It's certainly his most radical film, made in 1990, based on a real event. The people in the case of that event actually play themselves in the film, which even heightens the reality more. I certainly would put this right up there with A Taste of Cherry, also in the collection. Close Up by Abbas Kiarostami is spine number 519. And my second film by Abbas Kiarostami is Certified Copy. Now, that's set in Tuscany with the delightful Juliette Binoche. How could you not like Juliette Binoche? Focuses on a British writer and French antiques dealer whose relationship undergoes an odd transformation over the course of a day. Now, this is an interesting study on love and relationships. Juliette Binoche and Kiarostami were very good friends, and it really leads to a very, very possible performance from her in this film. Certified Copy is spine number 612. Certainly those with a taste for this director's work will get something from both these movies. There are other Abbas Kiarostami movies in the collection, and obviously I'm still trying to acquire those as well, so I have all of his films because I'm a big fan of his. Now we have Christian Mungiu's Beyond the Hills. I mentioned this name before because he's two other titles in the Criterion collection, and that's Graduation and 4 months, 3 weeks and 2 days. In Beyond the Hills, the 2012 film, he mounts a complex inquiry into faith, fanaticism and indifference. A young novice nun reunites with her former friend who wants to take her to Germany, but she's unsure. And she's pulled by her faith, wanting to stay at the monastery or leave the calling. Now, this is a long watch. It's 152 minutes. Yes, I know. But it's compelling nonetheless. Now, this film, Beyond the Hills by Christian Mungiu, is spine number 923. Jean-Luc Godard is a French director who many have to acquire a taste for. But clearly Breathless, I think, is his best work. But he teamed up with Jean-Paul Belmondo and Anna Karenina for Pierrot le Fou in 1965. A man takes to the road with his babysitter, played by Anna Karenina, disenchanted with life. It's a road trip, and yet it isn't. Godard himself called this particular couple his last romantic couple. There's fantastic, colourful cinematography from a brilliant cinematographer, Raoul Coulthard, and Belmondo and Karenina absolutely sparkle together in this film. The artwork on the release from Criterion is really good because it's a red, white and blue theme. But the only downside of this is in the book they also use coloured lettering, and if you don't look at the booklet in the right light you can't read it properly. That's my only criticism there. But certainly Pierrot le Fou is classed as one of the pinnacles of French New Wave cinema by a brilliant director before he went a different direction, funnily enough. This is spine number 421 and it's on release in the United States. Now finally we come to Amores Perros by Alejandro González Iñárritu. Now this Mexican director more recently brought us Birdman and of course The Revenant. Amores Perros is his first film in his trilogy of death. The other two were 21 Grams and Babel. It contains 3 distinct stories connected by a car accident in Mexico City. The stories centre on a teenager in the slums who gets involved in dogfighting, a model who seriously injures her leg, and a mysterious hitman. The stories are linked in various ways, including the presence of dogs in each of them. The title is a pun in Spanish, and the word perros literally means dogs. Now, this certainly firmly establishes Iñárritu's original directorial flair, which he went on to hone to the high level it's currently at. Amores Perros was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film in 2000 and won the Ariel Award for Best Picture from the Mexican Academy of Film. Of course, as we now know, he went on to win the Oscar as a director in later years, and I am very excited to see what this director will offer us next. In the next Let's Talk Criterion, we have Mike Leigh's Secret and Lies with Brenda Blethyn, Defending Your Life with Albert Brooks, Lost in America with Albert Brooks and Julie Hegarty, Celine and Julie Go Boating, and the Wong Kar-wai box set, which I've had to put back because there'll be lots to talk about on that because there's no less than 7 of his movies in that collection and they've all got Criterion treatment with lots of features and supplements. So I'll be spending a bit more time on the Wong Kar-wai box set. Oh, and not to forget Sid and Nancy from Alex Cox and the Philadelphia Story from George Cukor. So everybody, stay safe and keep watching those movies. That's it for this catch-up. So in the next Let's Talk Criterion, we have Mike Leigh's Secrets and Lies with Brenda Blethyn. I can't say Blender, like Blender.